All right.
Okay, we're ready. Okay. We know Mr. Manzi. Mr. Manzi, we're ready.
Well, good morning. Glad
Morning.
to see every one of you, and we're going to ask that we would proceed in our normal fashion, and we'll hear from our city clerk.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, September 1st. We have approval of minutes from August the 25th.
Promise.
Good job.
Okay. Public hearing. Today is a public hearing to declare the structures at 1913 Andrews Street, 2066 Gibson Street, 2804 Greenback Drive, 526 Helveston Street, 2529 Muriel Avenue, 1530 Northview Drive, public nuisances and ordering those demolished.
No problem.
Today is a public hearing to consider adoption of the 2021 General Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, and Convention Center budget. Essential COVID-19.
Can we ask how many people signed in or called in or?
Yes, we do.
How many?
Double handful?
We have Reggie Hill, Joe Michigan, Mr. Ronald Hunt. Is that it? 3?
All right. Well,
Good morning.
I'm on your dark now.
Right. I'm in council meeting, which is why I couldn't answer, but I stepped out a minute.
No, you didn't. Hey,
Oh.
Levon, still in. Hit your mute button.
Yeah, he got
did.
it. Here's a question I have about the capital budget. I've not been given the final CIP list, and at least for the district is what I'm talking about. And so I know we're just approving the budget, but I also like to know what that budget's tied to. So I guess I'll ask the administration again if we can have our CIP final lists. Does everyone have theirs?
I don't. Pardon me. I had an emergency call, but I don't. As a matter of fact, I'll be turning some things in this morning. I don't know where anybody else is with the process.
Yeah, I mean, I've done everything and communicated and talked to department heads and, you know, all those good things, but I just can't seem to get that final, you know, list that I would follow through the course of the year and advocate for.
Ms. Rich, I'm gonna try my best to reach out to the administration on today, and I'll try to shoot the council an email and when we should be expecting to get that and everything.
Okay, that would be terrific. I appreciate it. I know it's just the hearing today. We're not voting, but, you know, okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's important that we get all the preconditions to a vote out of the way as possible so we can go ahead and vote in a timely manner.
Right. And I was told that Jasmine was the point person. So that's who I was communicating after having the Zoom meeting and going over the different changes and whatnot. And like I said, the amount stays the same. It's putting it in lines that were priorities. And it'd just be nice to have that as a fixed set of guidance for approving the budget, capital budget. Thanks.
Okay, somebody's talking.
That's the mayor's office.
Let's roll. Ignore them.
Okay. Essential COVID-19 items held over. 02027, ordinance to amend the rules for communication with the council. We're good? Okay. 63028.
No, hold on. On item 6, let me put my glasses on. Item 6 says, there should be no dialogue between the person addressing the council and any individual council member. And the last part is which I'm contesting, and no question will be answered, nor comments made by any council member during this segment of the meeting. I would like for that last segment to be scratched from this line. From
You
this,
can make that motion, Fred. We'll see how that goes.
I will.
All right. See, I'm of the opinion that if we're going to cut them, I'm against cutting them. First of all, I was going to go along with it if we could somehow make it a more efficient meeting, if that was our goal, and if that we could show that that was true intent. But it's not our true intent to shorten the meeting. It's just our intent to shorten what we're having to listen to, and which has not been a burden as far as I'm concerned. Not with this.
The 5 minutes, you mean?
5
That I'm trying to follow your train of thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if we're going to cut them to 3, then I think we ought to make a true effort at shortening the meeting, making it more efficient, so that those that are joining us to conduct their business, that is addressing us and having something accomplished, they also see us sacrificing as well. But I just can't see. Y'all just really got to look at this and say, we're going to tell them you can't talk public, but watch us, because we're not going to slow down. And it is sending that message. That's the word that's out there. You can shake your head, you can disbelieve, but go talk to people. Go ask them what it sounds like.
But when they ask a question, I can understand not interrupting their entire train, whether it's the 4, the 3 with the extra 1, or we keep it at 5. I don't have any problem with that. It's how do we help resolve or clarify if we can't address it, because some of that they're looking for, that exchange, that resolve, that help. Yep. So I don't mind whether everyone should speak and then we go back and address, but that seemed like that would take longer. And I hear what you're saying, because it appears that we're telling them they have less time, but we are not limited. And I just don't know how you answer after someone's come forward to make their points, be heard, and want to see a change or a resolve or whatever.
I would say that
we can't address them.
Most people that come to address us are coming with an agenda. They many times have not even called us, and if they have, they're just not happy with the response. And we're not fixing anything in that meeting. And if we made it a rule that we do not enter into dialogue at our meeting, be happy to meet you as soon as it's over. Be happy to meet you at your house, at the site, whatever it is. But let's work on this the way we ought to be working on. That's just, I just can't see us cutting public, and I'd rather us just not cut the public. 5 minutes is not that much more than 3.
I'm telling you, just like you told. I'm telling you, I want to tell John just like he told me. Put it up, make that motion.
It's already a motion, Fred. It's right there in front of you.
Yeah, and what I told you I wanted to do was right here in front of me too.
I understand.
Mr. Arledge, Chris Arledge, can you go over briefly the major changes that are being proposed in this particular ordinance?
Yes, sir. All right, so the thing about getting non-agenda item requests in by Thursday at 2 has not changed.
We need to cut all our phones off.
Has not changed. If it's a remote meeting, this is a change here. If it's a remote meeting and it's a agenda item, they have to get that in 24 hours ahead of the meeting so that you'll have a heads up, because you're not down here to find out. and then it limits it to 3 minutes on all topics. A 1-minute extension can be granted at the correct request of any council member, and no further extensions unless you get 5 votes to allow it. And then you got the dialogue that y'all have been talking about. There's no dialogue between the person addressing the council and any individual council member, or no answers. Questions will be answered or comment made during this segment of the meeting, which the way I take it is till all the speakers have gone, and then that part's over with.
So just for clarity's sake, because I've read this a couple of times, want to make certain that I have clarity with it. If a speaker were to come and sign in to talk about Lafayette Heights Park, they would have 3 minutes in order to say what they wanted to say about the park. And is it that I would not be able to respond, period? Or is it I would have an opportunity to respond after everybody who's come down to speak has spoken?
I think that after all the speakers have gone and sat down, then that segment of the meeting is over, and y'all go back to doing whatever you normally do.
Hey, why don't we move our announcements?
Say that again, John. I didn't hear you.
Why don't we do something such as, let me talk about, first of all, agenda item. I'm going to talk about it in pieces. Agenda items, we're going to have all the time we want to speak on this when the motion is made for that agenda item. That's unlimited discussion. But here, what really gets to Fred's point is non-agenda items. People come down here and say, you're stupid because you can't get my ditch done. And we want a chance to respond. And we could tell them, I'm going to answer that, and when everybody's done, at the time that we're all given a chance to make announcements. Let's move announcements up to the front. Just like the mayor's announcements are up front, let's move our announcements.
Last thing we do.
Well, you don't want to change, Fred. You just want it your way. I'm really offering a reasonable deal, so.
Joel is,
Yep.
John, will you finish?
I
I don't mean to cut you off at all. If you
Joe raises his hand.
Joel?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Mr. Daves, pardon me. Mr. Joel Thomas Daves in the 5th District.
I think we need to go back to what the purpose of these meetings is. It's a legislative assembly. We are there to legislate. It is not designed to be a forum for people to come down and get on a soapbox, and it's really not even designed as a problem resolution meeting. It's a legislative meeting. If I don't know, I think it's fairly common in municipal council meetings to allow that kind of thing. But where we get bogged down is when someone comes in with a problem that we don't have any authority to resolve, and we spend 30 or 45 minutes messing around with it. And everybody feels like they got to say something. And the administration's response is, well, we'll have to look into it and get back to you. And so now we've spent, as I say, 30 or 45 minutes with really no resolution to the problem. And I think that's the kind of thing that we have to get some control of.
Yeah. Mr. President.
Mr. Richardson.
The way we get control of issues of that nature is not allow them on the agenda. If it's not city business, we shouldn't be even discussing if it's not city business. If it is city business, and if it's going to require a city employee, if it's going to require city equipment, then that's going to be the administration, because we can't instruct city employees, and we know the equipment they are going to have to use to resolve the problem. So if the best we can say on that is it is an administrative issue, but people can sign up to talk about any city issue. If they sign up by Thursday at 2:00, they can sign up to talk about any. But if they want to come down on Thursday to talk about, like I said last week, half of our street has been resurfaced, but the segment running past their house was left untouched, but no one resurfaced it. And then what John proposed is I'll sit there until the end of the meeting and that person is going home. When I could have said, fine, that's not the city resurfacing that resurfaced half of your street. Bob was given permission to cut into those streets and then patch it back. And we're requiring them to resurface over all of their patches. And hopefully, when resurfacing time comes, I'll have enough funding to get the rest of the street. At least the person ought to leave there with some understanding as to what is going on, that we're not so stupid that we are going around resurfacing half of the streets. So under George's proposal, I would just sit up there and not say nothing. I don't agree to that.
Move the announcements.
Ms. Gregory?
I think there are several things going on here. I agree that if it is something that is obviously not a council responsibility, that we have no authority over it, we should very quickly be able to tell the folks who come down on non-agenda items that very message and turn to there and say, see that man right there? It's his responsibility. But there are other things that we could do, and I think the administration should be a part of this. And I mentioned this before. People sign in for non-agenda items by 2:00 on Thursday. If they've got an issue with something in the district, whether it's district specific or citywide, the council members and the administration ought to be looking at this and trying to solve the problem before they come down to the council meeting and put their message out there. That would solve a lot of these things, because we don't need to be encouraging our residents to come down to get their issue resolved at a council meeting. We ought to be working with the administration to resolve it ahead of time instead of saying, hey, come down to the council meeting and just put it out there. That's another problem. I think the administration has to play a part in this, and so do we, in order to resolve these issues ahead of time. Al Stokes used to be terrific at doing this. He would look at those agendas and see who had signed up to speak about some issue within the city, and they would get them resolved, and those people then didn't have to come to the council meeting. So that's one thing we can do. The other thing, though, I agree with Fred that if somebody comes down and they are speaking to an issue, we need to be able to give them some sort of answer, especially if it is a criticism, if it is a negative, if they just are at the end of their rope and can't get anything done. We need to at least be able to tell them something. But we don't need to be arguing back and forth with the people who come. That's not what this is for. And when they do come to speak, we don't need to sit them down after 5 minutes or 3 minutes and then us take another 10 to 20 minutes expounding on why we're not wrong about it. I mean, there's just a lot going on here, and it sounds like we don't have any sort of resolution to changing the rules at this point.
I don't disagree.
Ms. Rich?
Thank you. Yes, and thank you, Gina. You're absolutely correct. This was assigned to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee went over. This was debated at the committee meeting. Fred and I are committee members. Normally, you have a majority rule from the committee till you put it on the agenda. I'm not trying to not resolve and fix what obviously we could do better as a council. But I don't think it's an all or nothing thing. And I'm pleased to hear that 5 minutes isn't even really the problem, because it takes time for someone to get their points across. I'm very sensitive to that for a citizen who comes down, who's not used to speaking from the podium. But again, if we have a problem, which is why the Rules Committee met, this was the one thing that we could not come to closure on. And to vote it up or down, I think is a little premature unless there's some more creativity on what that organization looks like for this council, so that we can all follow the rules. Because that, John, I applaud your efforts of wanting to follow rules and make it even-handed. I don't have a problem with that. And I think the idea of not interrupting and letting the person say their entire time instead of saying, excuse me, may I, help you or whatever when they're halfway done. And then the bottom line is, do we address them after they sit down? So there's not the back and forth, which you say is a problem when we debate a person, because it is not debatable on their concerns. And Gina's comments about the administration in the past, because of having a chief of staff, they got right on it and called the citizen or called the council person, and was a lot of times by Tuesday when we met, we were told they weren't coming. It's, they're moving along. It's okay. We understand what they needed. And that's been somewhat missing in the last number of months. So we might want to rest this for another, a meeting, John, if you're amenable to that as a rules committee chair.
I don't have any authority over that now.
I think, well, say what? I mean, what is the pleasure of the council? Because we could certainly, there is no rush. We want to get this right, because I agree with those, I'm amenable to some changes. This notion that we're arguing while these presenters are presenting, that doesn't happen often. Normally, anybody who comes up to speak gets 5 unfiltered, unfettered minutes. What happens is when we start asking a question of a presenter, and then they go to give us an answer, and it's a 20-minute answer or a 10-minute answer. And so I'm amenable to giving the Rules Committee another shot at this if Mr. Williams would like to do that. I don't know where we stand. It doesn't look like we're in harmony with what's before us, though. So what would you all like to do?
I'm just the chairman. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Mr. Arledge?
What if you said on that number 6, I'm just throwing this out here, after it says no questions answered during this segment of the meeting until all the speakers have had a chance to speak and taken their seat?
Well, I think it depends, because if all the speakers are speaking to the same topic or not, I mean, you would need to separate that.
Or you have to organize your thought, one of the two.
I don't see how we're going to gain any more time. You're still going to use the same amount of time. I think when the speaker finish, no, I'm sorry.
Mr. Vice President, then we come right to you, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I have a question to Chris and to the committee. Did we look at exactly what Birmingham is doing? Because I know they have a 3-minute limit, but as far as in the council responded or response behind it, did anyone look at that or other major cities like Atlanta, Birmingham?
Yes.
I sent that around.
Birmingham had a 3-minute limit on speakers, a 30-minute total for all speakers, and no one can talk 2 meetings in a row. The same speaker can't come back every week. It's got to be every other week. But they didn't really address the issue of talking back to the speakers, which is what y'all are talking about.
What about, that's the only city that you really looked at, or in other major cities like Atlanta?
I looked at about 10 or 15 cities.
Probably a third of them limits.
A lot of them have a 3-minute deal. And some of them limit the minutes that the counselors can talk. Daphne does.
Like New Orleans.
Then there's some about You can't talk about the same thing until everybody's had a chance to go. There's just a lot of different variety, but the 3-minute is a pretty common one.
Yeah, I would say, President, that I really believe that we need to go back and look at this before we vote, because I'm not
Absolutely.
can't support this on today, especially with the council comments, because again, we are here down here to represent the citizens, and a lot of citizens just don't believe that they can get relief unless they can come down here, because sometimes the mayor don't know all about his employees, and he might have one employee out there doing something totally different. Like we have some citizens come down here and talk about one particular employee, one department, and I'm sure that the mayor don't know exactly what's going on. And there have been times that we had citizens to come down here, advocating for different situations and saying, this and this and this and that, and not just only because it's in District 3, but District 3 gonna need the support of 4, 5, and 6, and 7. 1 and 2, just in case if it comes to a vote, and we all need to have a knowledge of it. So it's like many times that the Boys and Girls Club came down here, the Sales Center on DIP came down here, and that's an opportunity for us to ask questions and see exactly what's going on. But you limited council members, and there's more questions to be asked. Then what? So that's one thing we really need to do, is just go back to again. This is a city council meeting. We are handling it's the city business, but again, we are here to advocate for the citizens, and to sit up there and not to say anything. You're not advocating for the citizens. You're just really just being a mute. And many citizens don't want us to come down here and just be mutes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Let me.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Williams?
This could be also accommodated if we take the announcements from the last thing that we do and bring it all the way up underneath where these are, where the presentation is. So the mayor makes his presentations, we do our appeals, then we do the petitions, to the council, and then we have our announcements. And in that, during those announcements, everyone is given an opportunity to organize their thoughts while people are talking, and can make their arguments up front in the meeting. I always thought that the announcements were in the wrong place to start with, because there's some of the things that are said during the announcements, a lot of people would like to hear, but they just don't stay for 2.5 hours, especially after the one agenda item that they were concerned with is over. So I'm just move it up there. Then I don't have a problem with cutting it to 3 minutes.
Mr. President.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes, I would just like to say that there is not but one Class 2 municipality in the state of Alabama. What they're done in these little townships where the mayor can vote, these are townships. Foley, Loxley, they're townships. It's not but one Class 2 municipality in the state of Alabama. And in this one Class 2 municipality, we have to reach consensus, because it takes 5 votes to pass legislation. Unlike the rest of them, where it's a simple majority. We are out there by ourselves. We need the time to listen at all of the pros and all of the cons, so we can reach the best decision. We can reach consensus. So to try to cut us off in debating matters is not germane to the form of government that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I say we send it back to the Rules Committee, give them an opportunity to review it and take in any further comments. Because we've the time we spent on this morning.
It's a waste of time. If we're going to go to the committee and talk about things, and then we're going to come here and we're not going to listen at all to any adjustment, I just say we drop the whole issue, go back to 5 minutes and move on. But bring it to the Rules Committee. It's not going to change anything. I mean, the Rules Committee right now between Bess and Mr. Richardson want this to be wiped off. So if we're going to just take it back there, then just wipe it off. I'll vote no, and we'll be fine. rock and roll.
I didn't say wipe it off. I'm sorry if you took it that way.
No, just number 6 is what you're saying. You scratch
No.
that.
I said it needed to be defined and understood, whether it was a segment of time. I hear what you're saying about moving up announcements. We could debate that in a committee meeting and talk about it and see whether that's something that is amenable, that does achieve a goal that we want to have. But I just honestly, I don't know how when people come down that we don't work with them in some manner from, either advocate to the administration that we agree or that we disagree, whatever it is, it's an opportunity for them to see government in action. And if we just sit there, we're not in action.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've offered a couple of scenarios here. It's on the agenda. Vote your conviction.
Amen.
We need to move on. Just vote your conviction. And if there's interest in bringing the subject back up, then bring it back up. But at this juncture, I'd like for the city clerk to move on. We spent a lot of time talking about time, and it's time to move on. So if you could go, it's time to go.
So up or down on everything then?
Go up or down. It's sink or swim.
Okay.
Then if somebody wants to bring it back up, they'll bring it back up.
Okay. Whatever.
63028, ordinance to amend chapter 63 of the city code to establish requirements for record services and participation on the record rotation list. 08622, approve purchase order to Atlantic Video Corporation for video wall panels. 08623, approve purchase order to CDW Government LLC for 45 iPad Air tablets for the fire department. 08624, approve item-based bid for hooded disposable coveralls. 21625, authorize service contract with Powder Gold Rentals for portable toilets, various city facilities. 21627, authorize contract with Robert J. Baggett for cruise terminal parking deck structural repairs. 4630, 31, 32, and 33 are declaring structures at 2910 Berkeley Avenue, 1808 Brownlee Street, 480 McCarley Street, and 2353 Hart Avenue public nuisances and ordering them demolished. Essential COVID items being introduced for the first time. 01642, authorize agreement with ALDOT for traffic control signals, intelligent transportation systems, and network systems at locations throughout the city. 086.
Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
I know there've been some questions raised about a few of these, and I don't know if anybody from the administration is listening in, but my reading of 642 is just traffic signals, timers, that sort of thing on Airport Boulevard. Am I correct? Joel, do you? And some fiber optics to go along with them and other places, well, not just airport, but.
Yeah. So it should be airport, and I think it's also, this is Jim DeLapp, by the way, I think it's also government, if I'm not mistaken, Government Street as well.
Yeah, there were several areas. Can I make a request of the administration on our routing memos on things that is basically just a contract put out for bid? When we get a routing memo, it just has that specific information. It doesn't really give us the basics of maybe what iPads are going to be used for or what something else is necessarily going to be used for. It's just, here's the bid, here's the amount. Is there a way on some of these route or all of these routing forms that don't include basic information to do that so that we're not going back and having to ask you like, okay, what are these iPads used for? What exactly are, these pieces of equipment going to be for? Just to help us and to help the public as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a broad question to all things on the agenda. I would say that that's not unreasonable to give a brief description of the use.
Yeah, I mean, some things it's obvious, like the one coming up on Ziegler, it's for engineering services. Well, yeah, but some things are not so obvious. If it's just a purchase for something, for some department, I mean, we don't know what it is without having to go back and ask.
Yep, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Thank you.
08643, approve purchase order to Toomey Equipment for mowers for the Parks Department, $34,908. 08644, approve purchase order to Gray Bar Electric for street light luminaries, $111,430.24.
Can,
Zero
do we,
eight,
excuse me, do we know where those lighting fixtures are going?
I don't have that in front of me. They're still focused right now. We're buying, as I think I've expressed to the council before, you'll see over the next year, really, multiple additional purchases of these lights. We're buying them in batches. This is the city's effort to convert its owned LED lights. They're still working on a lot of the highway ones, some of the high mast ones. I'm not sure if this batch is for that, but that's probably where those are headed.
Hey, Jim, this is Don Rose. Yes, those are for the interstate projects on I-10 and I-65.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
nice
that's
to
what
know
I
that.
thought.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Mr. President, Jim and Don, while y'all are on, as these come along, and I'm excited about having these new lights citywide, is something we've needed for a very long time. Can y'all just keep us up to date on, especially when you start getting into neighborhoods, not necessarily the interstate, but when you start getting into neighborhoods and areas, can you let us know when they're coming to our areas so that we are better able to, provide that information to our constituents?
Yeah, I've got, for everyone, we just created, because we just started the effort with Alabama Power for their 20,000 lights that they have. As you know, they started in Africatown last week or week and a half ago. I have 3 slides that I basically update daily that has the number of fixtures done each day and then the % complete. And it also has a rough timeline on at least the Alabama Power effort and where they'll be in which areas with an associated map. So I'll forward that to the council.
Yes.
So you have it as a baseline, and then probably get it to you, maybe weekly if that's okay.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Connor DeLapp, do you
Yep.
know when this contract is passed through the council, do you know how long will it take before they start being installed on the interstates?
They're already
Especially-
doing it. They're already doing it. As I look out here out the window right now on I-10, we've got, 3 or 4 of them already done. They're working on them, as they go. So from procurement to those actual fixtures going up, I don't know the time frame, but I'm guessing probably, 3 weeks to 30 days from when you pass it to when they're actually delivered and then installed. But we're working the ones we're doing in a continual process. The Alabama Power ones, they procured all the bulk of theirs at once, and they're storing them, and then they're bringing them down and working on them every day.
So basically, they started from like the downtown area of I-10. That's what I'm hearing.
The city ones that these are referring to, they started right here at the tunnel, the Walls Tunnel, and they're working their way out down I-10, and then they'll hit I-65. So they're doing the interstate ones, and then they'll finish up by doing all the remaining ones inside the city limits. As you know, about 10 years ago, we did about 1,000 lights within the city already. Those are some of the ones you'll see on Government and a few other streets where they're already LED. But we've got about 5,000 more to go that are city owned.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
08645, approved purchase order to E-Builder for annual license renewal, $55,574.36. 21646, authorized contract with Goodwin, Mills, and Kaywood for Michael Figures Park improvements, $49,865.
Okay,
31.
Hold on, Mr. President. Is there anyone that can speak to this?
Mr. Richardson, this is Kim Harden.
Yay! Come on, Kim.
Good morning. The contract, this is for design services to use the funds that you've allocated through CIP to do the improvements to the entryway for that dedication area. Also to do upgrades at the pool house to bring it up to code so that it can be more useful for all of our children and citizens. It's some additional work within the park itself. And there's a whole line of items that we're working on. I think it was attached to the contract. If that would be a little more detailed for you to be able to review. If you don't have that, please let me know. I'll be happy to send it to you. But it's the funding that we currently have. You see it's 2019 CIP, but it's 2019 and 2020 funds combined to do this work. And this is the design contract to get that rolling.
Would this have any relationship to the Florida Fortune project?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is to actually do the documents for construction on that will be included.
Okay, but that's really what I was going for, trying to see if that would be included.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
$31,647, authorize a grant application to the South Alabama Regional Planning Commission for Title III funding. The city's match is $60,904. $21,648, authorize contract with Thompson Engineering for construction engineering, inspection materials, sampling and testing, and contract administration for Ziegler Boulevard, 8th Road to Forest Hill Drive, $1,778,052.
Mr. President,
Mr. Gregory?
and Colonel DeLapp and Nick are probably on the call if they want to jump in, but this is part of the second phase of Ziegler. ALDOT opened bids on Friday and they have a low bidder. I don't know where they are in the process now of awarding a contract, but I suspect we'll see that soon. This contract with Thompson is for, as you see, engineering, also project management and those sorts of things that go along with this contract. So what I've been telling people in the community is very soon you'll start seeing signs going up. November-ish is when we plan to or hope to see actual construction of this second phase of Ziegler widening.
Sounds great.
$37,649, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer on-off premises license for Applebee's Express on Airport Boulevard. $37,650, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a restaurant retail liquor license for Holiday Inn Airport Mobile on Spring Hill Memorial Drive South. $40,651, $52, $53, $54, $55, $56 are declaring the structures public nuisances and ordering those demolished. $58,657, assess cost for removal of weeds, weed lien group 1602. $60,658, determine an appropriation to the Mobile Museum of Art for an exhibition serves a public purpose and approve payment $14,715. $60,659, elect to provide Tier 1 retirement benefits to Tier 2 plan members. $37,660, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special retail more than 30 days license to Hancock Whitney Stadium, 500 Stadium Drive. 09661, approve the 2021 General Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, and Convention Center budgets. Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. We have Tim Wills, the Boys and Girls Club, to update the council, administration, and citizens of Mobile, the status of the Boys and Girls Club during COVID. And then we have 3 people signed for public hearing to address the budget. That's Ronald Hunt, Reggie Hill, and Joe Mishkin. And Reggie Hill is also signed in to address agenda items. And we emailed you all a copy of that. He emailed also to you. Yeah. Announce.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis?
what do y'all think about the 09661, the budget? You want to hold it over another week or 2 weeks? What do you want to do? I'd like to keep some pressure behind us to deal with.
2 weeks.
Two.
That 2 sounds good.
And which of these new items are we going to waive the rule on? Today. Hello?
If I could, Madam City Clerk, the item you read off relative to tier 1 and tier 2 retirement, is someone there that could briefly go over that for us?
Mr. President, this is Paul. I'd be happy
Yes,
to summarize that. In 2011, there was increasing pressure on the RSA assets. You may recall the stock market fell to about 50% of its value prior to the Great Recession. And that the public funds in the retirement system accounted for most of the assets in RSA. So the legislature acted and created a second tier of beneficiaries of the pension system. They divided those two classes, what were then called Tier 1, or the old employees, and Tier 2, or the new employees, before and after January 1st of 2013. So if an employee began work for the city, or for any city or county in the state after that date, they became a Tier 2 employee with retirement benefits, or the pension benefits, approximating about 78% of what Tier 1 beneficiaries would receive, who had the same salaries and same length of service to their cities or counties. As you know, following 2011, the stock market made a complete rebound. In fact, it came back higher than it had been prior to the Great Recession. And that continued until now. Last year, in the prior legislative session, the body enacted a window of opportunity for cities and counties to adjust their Tier 2 employees so that they would have the same level of benefits as Tier 1 employees. That requires some contribution by cities and counties and their employees, but very little compared to what it would have cost to continue Tier 1 benefits back in 2011. The budget includes $146,000 in additional contribution to RSA that will fund the city's portion. Tier 2 employees would be required to increase their contributions from 6% of salary to 7.5%. Without going into detail, that still is a remarkable improvement for Tier 2 employees. In other words, that additional contribution pales in comparison to the lifetime pension benefits that they can expect upon retirement. We have a window that closes in May of next year to enact or not enact our approval of this plan for the city. If we approve it during September of this year, those contributions and those expected benefits would start in fiscal 2021. We do have the option of waiting until after 2021, and we could enact this resolution prior to the end of May of 21, in which case this plan would go into effect for fiscal 2022. But there would be an increase in cost to the city. So that's really what this does. It's kind of a once in a probably the last chance that the legislature will give us to normalize the status of our employees who were hired after January 1, 2013.
Sounds good. I'm in favor. It read like a good proposal, but I with it being such an important item, I'm glad you have gone over it. I guess the question I have now is the tier system still in place?
It is currently. Now, if you enact this resolution, then effective October 1 of this year, there will be no distinction between the benefits expected by what were formerly Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees. So they'll be in the same classification for benefit purposes.
So just for again, for clarity's sake, by passing this ordinance or passing this resolution, all of our employees would be then Tier 1.
That
And
is
anyone
correct.
who's hired, say for instance, somebody's hired today, they would be hired with that Tier 1 benefit.
I understand your question better now. Yes. In other words, this is not just for employees hired between 2013 and today. This would be forevermore. So employees hired before 2013, employees hired after, and those hired after the enactment date would all be treated the same for benefit purposes.
Okay.
Joe had a question, I think. He's on the phone. May I ask a question?
Sure, Mr. Williams.
So Joel did have a question, but mine would be the only part I'm not real clear on is from 2013 to enactment. Would those Tier 2 employees have the option to stay Tier 2? I don't know why they would. It's only it's a percentage though, and a point over what they're currently contributing. Paul,
They would, yes, good question. They would not have that option. So all Tier 2 employees would then go to Tier 1.
That's what I thought too. Joel?
Mr. Daves?
Paul, what are the financial implications for the city of Mobile of passing this?
Yes, for fiscal 2021, there would be an increase in total RSA contributions from the city of $146,000. That's made of two pieces. One is about 80 and a few odd thousand, and the other is 40 some odd thousand. The 80 some odd thousand continues for 5 years. That is kind of a makeup provision to fully fund 2013 until today. So it kind of fills part of the gap. And then the continuing funding obligation for the enhanced benefits going forward would be $40,000 after the 5 years is run.
$40,000 a year?
Yes.
That's insignificant.
Well,
Yeah.
again, the legislature's purpose was, as the funding at the state level got so close to what it would mean that they probably never should have enacted the 2011 legislation. The legislature saw fit to go ahead and act at that point. They didn't know what would happen, from 2019 until 10 or 20 years from now. But this was the one opportunity where the total funding in RSA had improved so greatly that they wanted to make this offer. So each city and county's ongoing enhancement of contributions is, of course, different. It's based on actuarial models, but so that number is unique to the city of Mobile.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further questions?
Yes, I have an appointment to the Police Advisory Council. So I'd like to get that added if there's no objection to that, since they're getting ready to kind of meet again. I wasn't realizing they were going to actually have a announced Sunshine Committee meeting, but I'd like to make an appointment.
I don't have a problem.
Okay. Everybody okay? All right.
Yeah.
I'll send it to the clerk's office. Thanks.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President?
also will be a CIP meeting immediately following our council meeting on today. And is Councilman Richardson and Williams.
To go back, President, to the items, the new items, we're gonna.
Which ones we going?
Have you all already done that?
Nope.
Yeah, we have not.
My suggestion would be starting at the top, 01-642, the agreement with AlDOT on the traffic control signals, the item on Figures Park, the
No.
AB.
Say that again, Joe.
Um,
I would like for us to take up Figures Park.
if it's CIP money and it's under 50,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been following that on.
Okay, then the ABC licenses 37-649 and 650. Then the structures 4651 through 4656. Then the weeds 58-657. Then the art museum appropriation 6658. And then the ABC license for Aramark.
Why would we do that?
I thought that there was, well, it's an ABC license, and usually we go ahead and waive the rule on those. And I believe.
I'm sorry, wrong one, wrong.
Oh,
wrong. I was thinking SMG, and that's why I saw an email on this morning and just blanked
I
my
saw
mind.
it too, John. We're on the same page.
Okay, so John, you want to run again?
Sorry.
What did you say, Joe?
I asked John if he wanted me to run through these again, since I assume he's going to make the motion.
Well, I thought you'd make the motion since you got it down.
Okay, that's fine.
Cool.
All right. If is there anything from the administration, Mr. Mayor?
Can I ask a question?
No, thank
on
you. I'm good.
One more thing. On the appointment that will be added, would that be done at this meeting or does that lay over?
Consent.
No,
Let's vote.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
vote.
No, fine. I'm just checking. Thanks.
Okay,
All
Mr.
right,
President,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
President, I just want to make sure that you know that we'll have to suspend the rules on 09661 in order to lay it over for 2 weeks.
That's fine. Mr. Vice President, I have it. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll see each other again at 10:30. All right.
all right.
They logged on